In this video, I'm going to walk you through an example that shows you how you can draft content in Word before developing it into a Brightspace page. Drafting this way helps you organize, edit, and polish your content in advance, making the building process in Brightspace faster and easier. Once you're ready, it's mostly a matter of copying and pasting. This frees you up to focus on design, making your content more visually appealing, interactive, and engaging for learners. The example I'll use is a short module I developed called Creating Engagement and Recognizing Student Success. You can find it in the Brightspace training resources. While the module is currently just 2 pages, it may grow as new tools and resources are added. So here is the Word document I drafted the content in. You'll notice the Deep Learner icon here. More on that in a moment, but also the use of headings. Clear heading structure is important for organizing information, helping learners find what they need quickly and ensuring accessibility. Screen readers rely on proper headings to convey how topics are related. Headings follow a hierarchy. Heading 1 is the page title, and there should really only be one per page. Heading 2s or H2s are for subtopics. Heading 3, subtopics, so topics within those. And heading 4 and beyond further detail each level underneath that. For example, if two headings are both heading 2s, they're at the same level. A heading 3 belongs under the closest heading 2. You shouldn't skip levels like going from heading 1 straight to heading 3, but going back up is fine. We'll see that on the second page. In this document, I used Word's title style for the module name as a whole. The page title, using badges and certificates, is in orange and is set as heading 1. And that's what it'll be when I actually create the page. The first subtopic, why use badges and certificates, is heading 2 in blue. Two subtopics underneath that, boost motivation and engagement and gamification as a strategy, are heading 3s, and I have them in green here. And examples of course gamified badges, because it's a further subtopic of gamification as a strategy, I have here as a heading 4 under the gamification section. I like using different colors for each heading level as it helps me visually track the hierarchy when building pages in Brightspace. Next, I've added a standard paragraph here, or paragraphs actually, followed by the Deep Learner badge image. I've left a comment to remind myself to align it to the right during development, and another comment here for what will be alt text. And in this case, the image complements the content on deep learning in the context of badges. It also breaks up the page visually and adds color to maintain learner interest. For decorative images, alt text isn't strictly necessary. Although the deep learner badge image might be considered decorative, it could also be considered functional or adding context to the page. So I've erred on the side of including alt text. If the image conveyed key information beyond the text, for example, in the case of a diagram or figure, I definitely add alt text and likely a caption too. Further down, you'll see a hyperlink in the phrase research shows. Here it is right here. Whenever possible, use descriptive links for accessibility. In this case, the text signals that the hyperlink leads to supporting research. Another option is to use the article's title as the link text. Avoid vague phrases like click here or displaying raw URLs. These don't provide screen reader users with enough context. Now for my favorite part of this page, I wanted to showcase examples of custom course gamified badges. To do this, I considered several layout options before landing on what I eventually decided on. Some of those options were listing them with text beside each badge or creating two rows of images with captions below, but both would stretch the page unnecessarily. Since I didn't have any other interactive elements here on this page, I wanted something more engaging that would also conserve space. Accordions are common, but don't highlight visuals as well. Tabs could work, but with 6 items, they'd be very cramped. Thanks to Creator Plus, I used a carousel. And see here, I just made a note for myself here of what I'm going to do, that this is going to be a carousel. Carousels are interactive, compact, eye-catching, and neatly display each badge example. So moving down, to finish the page, I linked to a paper on badging best practices as an additional resource. I used a heading 3 right here to keep it at the same level as the earlier subtopics. I placed the text as a whole in an icon callout, a light bulb icon callout to be more specific here, as you can see by my comment. And the link text uses the title of the paper, keeping it descriptive and accessible. So moving on to the next page, you can see my next page begins with an orange heading 1, how to set up badges and certificates. Originally, I had this as a heading 2, as another subtopic of the first page, as a continuation of that, but it felt long, and the topic itself, how to actually set up the badges and certificates, seemed distinct enough to deserve its own page, so I broke it up. Now, after a short introduction, I go into my first subtopic here on this page, the awards tool. Here, I've added an image and commented again on its alignment. I also included alt text and a caption just down here. For styling, you can use the NC HTML template from Brightspace training resources if you wanted to include a caption. Under creating badges and certificates, the next heading 3, because it's a subtopic of this subtopic, because it's all in the awards tool, I plan to embed a walkthrough video, so I've placed a placeholder for it here in brackets, as you can see here. To support Universal Design for Learning, or UDL, I included a text version of the steps underneath as well. One section explaining the form fields for creating an award is placed in a callout to make it visually distinct from the rest. And we'll see what all of this looks like at the end, toward the end of this video, when I show you how it all ends up looking. Since the steps themselves are quite long, I've placed them as a whole into an accordion. And above that, I've included instructional text. As you can see here, watch the following video for a walkthrough of the steps to create a badge or certificate in Brightspace. Alternatively, you can select the tab following it for a text version of steps. This kind of instructional text is key. It tells learners what to expect and guides screen reader users. If you're using Creator Plus, it will prompt you automatically to do this. If you're using custom code, you'll need to add it manually. Next up, issuing and revoking awards, which is another heading 3. This section has underneath it 3 subtopics marked as heading 4s. Because the items are closely related and follow the same structure, I decided to use tabs for these. Tabs work well for organizing steps in a clean, compact way, provided there aren't too many. And as we will see here, each step includes a video embed, and I've left myself the video link in the comments, followed by plain text steps, in case someone was more inclined to just read the steps versus watching the videos. Now, I didn't place these steps in an accordion because that would create an interactive element within another interactive element. For example, tabs within accordions or vice versa. This can confuse learners and end up looking very cluttered. So the final section, I wrap up this page with additional resources, and I've gone back up to a heading 2 because it's not directly related to the subtopics, issuing and revoking awards, and whatnot. There might be links about how to do that, but as a whole, it's its own higher level of subtopics. So I've gone back up to an H2. And as I mentioned before, you can go back from, so see I have my H4 here, my heading 4, and then I've gone back up to an H2. You can do it going back up that way. Just going down, you can't skip levels. This section, as we can see here, I've decided to use a 2-column layout to avoid unnecessary white space and a lot of vertical scrolling that comes when sometimes when you just list a whole bunch of things like this. You'll also notice that I've created descriptive links in here with the titles of the pages that the learner will be taken to. And this is in contrast to, say, just including the raw URL, or maybe the title and then the raw URL. It's just the title, so they know exactly what it's about, where they're going. So these are really just examples of informational content pages drafted in Word, but you could also do the same thing with other content types, like discussions or quizzes, drafting them out first, and then pasting the content into the appropriate tool in Brightspace. It's really, doing it that way will really save you a lot of time. Now let's see how it looks in Brightspace. And here's my first page using badges and certificates. And here we go. This is with the document template applied already. We can see using badges and certificates, as was the case in my draft document, is a heading 1. Why use badges and certificates is my heading 2, and my next heading 3. is boost motivation and engagement, as well as gamification as a strategy here. The deep learner badge is aligned right, just as I had planned. And on mobile, interestingly, this is going to stack for me. Moving down to the carousel draws attention with vibrant visuals. You can see here. The instructional text from Creator Plus that it makes you enter here is included. And one thing you might notice if you're comparing this with an earlier part of the video or with the draft documents that will be included with this video is that I expanded the text slightly during development. And this happens sometimes. And I mean the text here in terms of the descriptions of the different badges. This happens from time to time, and it's okay to do as long as the structure works. Like while you're developing, if you think of something extra and you just want to throw it in, don't feel obligated to always go back to the draft document, put it in there, and then copy it again. You can just be more efficient and just add it in directly if the situation calls for it. Moving on down, I have my icon callout, my light bulb icon callout with want a deeper dive, and my link here to the badging best practices page. So I'll go on to the second page now. And on the second page, you can see that the heading structure remains consistent. Images are aligned with captions. So here's my caption. And the video is embedded where planned. Just a note, use the HTML template embed method if you want to have border styling around your videos. And here we can see my accordion with the steps and my call out here for the required information that is needed when you fill out the form for this step. Issuing and revoking awards. Here are my tabs, my instructional text here before each video, and then my steps. And I'll show you what happens when I just, so these each are similar. So it makes sense that they would go in a tab. And then moving on down to additional resources, you can see I've placed this in 2 columns, which when viewed on mobile will stack. And you can do this or have this 2-column effect by using the layouts option in Creator Plus. So to wrap up, drafting first makes development faster and more flexible. It reduces your cognitive load and lets you focus on good design and learner experience without worrying about content creation at the same time. Building in Brightspace thus becomes a much smoother and more creative process when your content is already set. I hope this walkthrough has shown you how effective and efficient drafting first can be. Thank you for watching.